what we're going to talk, let me put my banner down. What we're going to talk about in this video is these details that are emerging. So we're talking about, of course, Anne Widdicombe. Let me put a picture up of Anne if I can. Anne Widdicombe, British politician and teacher. You would call her right wing. You know, you couldn't call her anything else. You describe her in school. Some people might say extreme right wing, but I think, you know, whether you say extreme or not, really, you know, these are all labels that we put on people, but she definitely was right wing. That, I think, no doubt with her views. She was a Conservative MP for many years, so her views obviously were Conservative. Why can't I find Anne's picture? Come on, I've got loads of pictures of her. Can't find loads. Just piss out things. Actually, no, I'm going to put this one. I love this picture of Anne with her cap. I'm going to put that one up. So this is the case we're talking about, of course. Anne Widdicombe, British politician, TV personality, forthright views, Reform Party member. The Reform Party, which, you know, again, a lot of people would say is extreme right wing. Other people would say, no, they're not extreme. You know, it all depends which way you're looking at things. But the thing that can't be denied about Anne, her views were Conservative. She was outspoken in her views. She didn't hold back on her views. She didn't say things because she thought it would win her friends and influence people. Whatever Anne Widdicombe said, that's what she really thought. And she had a lot of admiration for that across the political spectrum. And now it's transpired that the guy who we then find out that's the guy who's in custody for Anne's very brutal murder. So this lady, literally in the middle of the afternoon, around about 12:30 in the afternoon, was in her home in Devon, you know, preparing to go on, organised. The Zoom link was being organised, and sometimes somebody walked into this lady's house. Well, whether they walked in through an open door, whether they rang the doorbell and she gave them access because, I don't know, they came up with some cock and bull about they wanted to speak to her. We don't know how this person gained access to Anne's home, whether it was through an open door, whether they broke in. But this person, who I can't find his picture now, and I want to put his picture up. Got it here somewhere. This person, bearing in mind that Anne is 78 years old, and she is only 5'1" tall. So although she was quite a ferocious character in some ways, because she was very forthright in her views, she still was tiny and 78 years old. And the man who's been held for this is this man, Joshua. And he is 28 years old, and he's a great big hulking guy. You know, the very opposite of Anne. He's tall, he's quite a big guy. And he's the one who's being held for doing whatever he did to Anne. Again, we have to say he's not been charged, still has not been charged. So he is innocent till proven guilty at the end of the day. Anyway, now, seems like what seems to have happened, now he lived in Rotherham in Yorkshire, and he's apparently travelled all the way from Rotherham that morning. There's CCTV that captures him getting into his car around about, I think it was 7:30, 8 o'clock, something like that, with a great big stick, or it looked to me like it might even be a baseball bat or a baton of some kind, getting in his car. And the police seem to think he then drove 4.5 hours to Anne's house in Devon, which in itself is so terrifying to me, that somebody could drive all that length of time and hold all that hate and rage inside them that it would take to hit an old lady over the head. He could have turned back at any minute, thought better of it. But no, he didn't. He went all the way there just to kill Anne, or at least severely injure her. Whether he meant to kill her, I don't know. But when you hit somebody over the head with a baseball bat or a baton or a wooden stick, especially a frail old lady, I mean, I don't know if she was frail, but she was still 78. You're likely to kill them, aren't you? You're likely to kill them. So he didn't care if he killed her or not. He left her there covered in blood, and off he went back home. Got a pizza, stayed in the house until he put the bins out a couple of days later. And then, because this was on the Wednesday, and by Saturday, the police, after having arrested somebody in error, a 24-year-old suspect who was since released and exonerated, they then fastened in on Joshua, and off they went to Rotherham and arrested him. And we haven't heard any more really since then, except that after having said that it was not terrorist related for so long, the police then came out, didn't they, and said it was passed over to the anti-terrorism police. We had a press conference from them outside Scotland Yard saying they'd found evidence that may be terrorist related. But let's not forget, it hasn't been charged with terrorism related incident. But it seems like what happened was some communist literature was found in Joshua's home. And as I was saying the other day, I mean, if you're a person who has a lot of books, especially if you have an interest in politics, I've got quite a bit of communist literature in my, because when I was at university years ago, I did study Russian history and communism, etc. It's very interesting history. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you are a terrorist or even a communist. Because I could read literature about Donald Trump. Doesn't mean I'm a Trumper. It's far from it, So, but that is obviously what they found in Joshua's house is what made them rearrest him under the Terrorism Act. And the good thing about that is it means they've got longer to hold him to try and establish the facts. Why did this young man, 28, that is young, isn't it? What gives a 28-year-old so much hate for someone that, it's not even a fit of passion or somebody who knew who had done some wrong to him, and she wasn't just round the corner, to drive all those miles, a lot of petrol he would have used. It's quite astonishing, really, isn't it? Could you imagine driving 4.5 hours to murder somebody? Honestly, it makes you die. The thing is, I can only report on. I haven't got the money to go and bribe one of Joshua's relatives to give me a photo of him, or tell me something about his childhood or whatever. This is what the mainstream media does, And then they turn around and say, oh, and it's terrible what's happening on social media. The social media only reports what the mainstream media is saying. You know, there's not many social media YouTubers who'll be there trying to bribe some of Joshua's family to give them a story, which obviously the Daily Mail and the Sun have done. So then, as social media people, we then take up those stories. Of course we do. I'm not going to see a photo of the suspect in Anne Widdicombe's murder and not tell my chatters about it, who are all interested in this case. Obviously you are. It's not me who released the photo. The Daily Mail that released the photo of him. And it's the Sun newspaper that has released this information we're going to talk about today, that allegedly this man is, you know, a big communist supporter. So, let me just check up on your comments on my. I'm going to. Sorry, I haven't set my stream up on the phone because otherwise I can't keep an eye. I don't know what comments coming in. I miss people coming in. I don't like doing that. So I thought, first of all, what's your impression of what a communist is? I mean, you know, communism. Bit like social. I mean, I am a socialist. I'm a proud socialist. You know, I remember when socialism wasn't a dirty word like it seems to be now. But communism is different from socialism. So communism depends whether you look at it in its purest form. You know, Karl Marx, of course, he wrote the Communist Manifesto, didn't he? And, you know, communism is a utopian society where everybody is equal. Communism in itself is not a bad thing, but just doesn't work in practice, sadly. You know, it's an idealistic view of society that we all sort of look after each other and we're all the same. It's a bit, whereas socialism is more of a meritocracy, isn't it? Where at least everyone's got an equal chance in life. Capitalism is just like, you know, each person for themselves, isn't it? So when we talk about communism, we tend to think about Russia, of course, and the disastrous implementation of communism in Russia before perestroika. But, you know, if you look back at Russian history, you know, and I studied Russian history at university, the peasants, before the revolution, in I think it was 17 or 18, can't remember exactly. Before the revolution, you know, your average Russian person, your peasant, I suppose, it was really all royalty or aristocracy, or you were a peasant. There was nothing really in between much. You know, they were really suffering. They were starving. You know, the royals didn't care. It was a bit almost like revolutions normally happen like the French Revolution. Marie Antoinette let them eat cake. You know, when the ruling classes don't realize just how fed up the people are, and it didn't quite happen because Britain, we decided to give a little bit to the people and stop them having a revolution. Anyway, in Russia they didn't. It was that too little, too late when they did start to try and change things. And there was a revolution, and the proletariat, the working class, rose up and literally killed all the aristocrats and the royal family. It was very brutal, you know, it was very bloody. You know, there's an argument that every Russian person now in Russia, they're descended from peasants, because all the aristocracy, the middle classes, the bourgeoisie, they were all killed off, literally, you know, millions of people killed. And it was a crime to be middle class or to, you know, so anyway, so that was like Lenin, who was the head of the revolution. But then he sadly died shortly afterwards. And you know, people often think if Lenin wouldn't have died, maybe it would have been a more successful society afterwards. because that then led to a fight for supremacy between Trotsky and Stalin. And Stalin won, and unfortunately for Russia, Stalin was a complete and total psychopath who took communism. It was ridiculous. I mean, communism wasn't supposed to be about murdering people who disagreed with you and all those kind of things. But listen, the aristocracy that were there before, and your average person in Russia was still poor, and so poor because Stalin would not ask for help when there was a famine in Russia. People were eating their children. They were that starving. So things didn't get better under Stalin. And then, of course, Stalin died, and we had a series of leaders in Russia, each one gradually a little bit more progressive. And then that culminated, of course, with Mikhail Gorbachev and Perestroika, and Russia opened its doors finally to the world. And things got a bit better. But, of course, at the end of the day, Russia has been affected by the communist regimes. And now we've got Putin, so he's like, but Putin is popular. So, I know quite a lot of Russian people. They love Putin. It's not that he's an unpopular leader. He's a popular leader, and people are prospering in Russia now under Putin. So that's a potted history of Russia. I mean, I'd like to. I love history, but I don't want to bore you all. But going back to communism itself, then of course you've got the communist revolution in China. Again, they sort of seem now to have. It's like it's still a communist regime, isn't it? But they have opened up more. Thing is, basically, I think what I'm trying to say is communism is a lovely concept. That it'd be lovely, wouldn't it, if we were all equal? Nobody had, hunger or wants, or it'd be lovely. It's it's idealistic and it all sounds great. But fortunately, it just doesn't work, or it hasn't been proven to work yet. Let's say. So there are some people, even in the UK, communism as well is like a bit of a dirty word, isn't it? You hear the Americans very, that's isn't it? It's called commie, just terrible. Their way of life is better, and some people might argue with that because certainly at the moment, would you say American society was fair? Not really, is it? So, or British society. So, maybe it's impossible to have a fair society. I don't know. That's a subject for another video, probably. But so, yeah, communism is it's still quite popular. There's still quite a lot of people propagating communism. Sorry, I'm just having a little look in the chat. Anyway, I can't. Sorry, thank you for chatting. Now I can't sort of keep up with it, but thank you. Oh, there's a message that's been hidden, David. Someone one of your messages got hidden, but showing it now. Morning Doom. That's a strange name. Right. I think sorry, so I've been disrupted in flow. So what happened in Britain? For all those years that the Labour Party was in the wilderness, 14 years in the wilderness under Jeremy Corbyn and other leaders. Now, Jeremy Corbyn, he's probably about as extreme left as you get. And a lot of people like that, and that's fine. But you know what? Jeremy Corbyn never won an election. So he never won an election. And the Labour Party got behind him because he was the Labour leader, but didn't win an election. So he consigned the UK population to another, another 5 years of Tory rule, austerity. We had Boris Johnson. Well, at least he was elected, Boris Johnson. How many prime ministers in the UK recently have not been elected? And I include Andy Burnham in that. I'm fuming with what's happening in the UK. I'm fuming with the left, the extreme left in the UK. What you would call probably these communist supporters. So what happened then was Keir Starmer actually election for Labour, which seems to be something wrong in the Labour Party if you actually win an election. So Jeremy Corbyn, when Keir Starmer won the election, instead of getting behind Keir Starmer, and the thing is, if you're more on the left of the party, well, then what you do is you try and influence things from within. You don't step out of it and create another party. So he stepped out of the Labour Party because he won't support the centre left. But he expected the centre left to support him when he was the leader of the Labour Party. Honest God, just say, is he in the employ of Russia or something? Because he couldn't have done more damage to the UK. And you know what? Not only him, but a lot of people on the far left of the Labour Party drew their support for Keir Starmer, making everything. If that's what's happening now, that's why Andy Burnham will be your Prime Minister in the UK. On Monday, Andy Burnham will be your Prime Minister. Nobody's voted for him. Not even the Labour Party membership have voted for him. He's just sneaked in there. He's tried to be Labour leader before and he never got elected. He hasn't been elected this time. It's the other Labour MPs that have decided that he's going to be the Prime Minister. He's going to be the Prime Minister. Excuse me, he's not even been elected. Just makes me so angry. Anyway, whether it was him, it's same with Boris Johnson. That's what happened to him. He was kicked out, but he was elected by the people. Then we had bloody Truss and Rishi Sunak. And, none of them were inside. We've got Kemi Badenoch, of course. She's okay. I hope she wins, to be honest, because I will never, ever, ever vote Labour again. But anyway, so Jeremy Corbyn then set up a new party, didn't he? I think it's actually called New Party or something like that. What's it called? And you probably think, what's this got to do with Anne Widdicombe's murder? Well, I'll tell you what it's got to do with Anne Widdicombe's murder. Because Jeremy Corbyn set up with another, what is the actual name of this new party? Our Party. So this is a new party that Jeremy Corbyn has set up. Whether he'll still want to do it now and maybe he'll support Andy Burnham, I don't know. Seems like Jeremy Corbyn, he just supports himself. He just expects everyone to support him, but then when he doesn't get his own way, it's like, I'm going to set up my own party. Honest to God, he's an absolute traitor to the British people, in my opinion, because what he's doing is he's never going to win an election with this new party, is he? But what he is going to do is split maybe the Labour vote. So, it's honestly, I'm gobsmacked at British politics at the moment. And you just think, what is the point in voting? I've never thought that. Any of you that have watched my channel, I always say to people, no, exercise your vote. People fought for that vote. For women, the suffragettes died for that vote. Very important to vote. But it's just pointless voting these days. because just pointless voting, because doesn't matter whether you vote or not, because then just 2 years later the party that you're voting for can just come in and change the leader without your permission or your authority. Disgusting. Terrible. Anyway, so he started this new party, and there is evidence to show, and I'm going to show it you, that it may be true that Joshua is an extreme left-wing thinker. I mean, that doesn't make someone a murderer, though. That's important to remember. Jeremy Corbyn might be extreme left-wing. Doesn't mean he's a murderer, does it? So I'm not saying this proves that. But, as we're trying to establish a motive, I think all of us, the police can tell us not to speculate as much as they want, but it's human nature when something like this happens, the first thing that we think is, why? Whether we agree with Anne or not on her politics or whatever, you don't wish death on any, or he's done more than wish death on someone. He's actually gone, if it's true, he's actually gone and killed her. Why has he done that? So while we're looking for a motive, and that's our human nature, our human inquisitiveness, to try and look for a motive. Initially, of course, there are lots of thoughts. Is it Islamic? Thing is, for someone to kill Anne Widdicombe for her views, they've got to be left-wing, really, haven't they? Because a right-wing person surely would not kill Anne Widdicombe. She'd be like the champion of the right-wing, wouldn't she? So it makes sense, obviously, that he's going to be, because he's not Islamic, at least as far as we know, unless he's converted to Islam or whatever, which a lot of people do. But as far as we know, we don't know that at the moment. His neighbours came out and said what a lovely family they were, and this, that. He's one of those, he's that person that lives amongst us that everybody thinks is a great guy, and if it turns out that this arrest is substantiated with a charge. So he's not such a nice guy after all, is he? He's not such a nice neighbour. He's there living amongst their midst. And all the time, he could have murdered anybody who had a different view to him. Anyway, so this party that Jeremy Corbyn set up, along with another member of the Labour Party, they sent out this open letter on the 19th of September 2025, because they had a petition. The Our Party initiative is pleased to announce the names of the proposed independent interim team designed to safeguard the party's founding process. Basically, without reading the whole thing out, it was trying to get back to the left wing. They thought that the Labour Party had gone too far to the right or to the centre, so they're trying to re-establish the more left wing, what they say they see as fundamental Labour thinking. Go back to Labour of the, the 70s. I mean, for fuck's sake. The thing is that it really worries me about Andy Burnham. When you're Prime Minister of a country, any country, you're Prime Minister for the whole country. You're not just Prime Minister for Manchester or London or for the left wing or the right wing or for the people that supported you. When you're Prime Minister of a country, your only mission is what's best for Britain. Let's take Britain as an example. That's all that counts. That's why Trumpy has been successful because even though it was a load of rubbish, he presented as himself as making America great again. He said he would, it was all about America. So this party has been set up, and they sent out this letter to get and invited people to sign it, and they got a certain number. I don't think they got that many signatures, to be honest. A lot of people are from London on it, funny enough, but number, I think it's 105. Let's see, 105. Oh no, probably, but so I've got it highlighted somewhere. It seems like, now of course, could be somebody else with the same name as our suspect in this case, but they'd have to have the same first name, the same surname, from Rotherham. Is that likely? I mean, I don't know who found this, but it's been circulating. Of course, can't find him now. Oh, Jeremy Corbyn's on there. Of course he is. Yeah, he's another person I used to have a lot of respect for him. I can't respect people that are doing damage to the UK as a whole, that are just taking their own views and not realising, that people don't agree with it. And he couldn't win a bloody argument, Jeremy Corbyn. Couldn't win an election. So he should have, when he resigned as party leader, he should have, supported the new leader, who then did win an election, God's sake. But no, he's not going to do that because he's a selfish twonk. Jeremy Corbyn is selfish. Don't care what anyone says. He doesn't care about the British people. He doesn't care about Britain itself. All he cares about is his own left-wing beliefs, because they didn't work. He did not win an election, and he should now get behind. He should have got behind then the person who did win an election and give them a chance. Look what some of these names are here. Number 1319, Willy Wanker. Wankers United, Wanktown. That's probably Jeremy Corbyn who's done that. Oh dear. So, this is it. Jeremy Corbyn doesn't care about Britain. He just cares about his own left-wing beliefs. And if people don't agree with his left-wing beliefs, he sets up against them. Instead of backing, he should have got behind Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer has always got behind the Labour Party, gets behind his party, gets behind Britain. Anyway, I can't find this guy now. I did highlight it and I can't find it. What is that? Ah, there he is. So number 1505 on the people that have signed this list is Joshua Kerry. No job put down. Of course, he isn't working now. I mean, we know that he did work. That's where some of his photos have come from. Rotherham. Now, is that too much of a coincidence that this man was found with communist literature? Apparently, allegedly, he's on this list of this left-wing new party that has been set up. He's on the list of people that have endorsed it. Is it possible that it's somebody else with exactly the same name as him from Rotherham? Or is this likely, number 1505, is this likely to actually be Joshua? And my other question is, who found this? Who would think to look on this list? Don't you think that's strange? This gives me sort of some conspiracy theory vibes as well, because you just think, so Anne Widdicombe, unless there's somebody out there, maybe for the Sun or the Daily Mail, there could well be a researcher that's been set to the task 24 hours of finding out what they can about left-wing activism and anything they can connect Joshua to. So that is possible, of course. That is possible. That there is somebody out there just scrolling through all left-wing things and looking for Joshua's name. But because otherwise it's not the sort of thing you'd just come up by accident, is it? You know, you'd have to search for it. Is number 1000. Got it, you know, if you were to go through this whole list, yeah, you know, do you see what I'm saying? So I don't know who came up with this or found it, but the fact is there on the list, or it feels to me that it probably is him, unless it's another Joshua Kerry in Rotherham, and there may well be, so it might not be him. So I just wanted to point that out to you. Look at this one. Jessie F. Heathcote, Dean's ex-wife, pay the child support, Dean, you idiot, from Inverness. So there's some funny names on there, apart from Mr. Wanker as well. But yeah, so there's probably quite a lot of genuine people on there, you know, that do believe in this new party. Oh, by the way, they've already fell out, Jeremy Corbyn and the other person. Sultana is an idiot, person who actually pays tax on behalf of the British people, United Kingdom. Oh dear, immigration officer, UK border agency. Ah, dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh God, that one's come up a few times. Sultana is an idiot. So I just wonder, if you took off all the fake names on there, how many real names would be left? But one of them would be Joshua. So what do you think about that? Do you think that is likely to be the real, you know, Joshua, the person that's accused of killing Anne? Is it possible that he is a communist or communist sympathizer? Or, you know, you can be sympathetic with communism without being a murderer. At the end of the day, it's not, you know, it's not obligatory that someone who is a communist is necessarily a murderer. So I'm trying to, there's quite a lot of chat and I can't really follow it all. So Kelly, no, it's not a new list. It was a list, you know, that was maybe a clue. Not sure exactly when it's from, to be fair, but it's only just coming out about it. So another thing that's coming out, this possible predator, and we have to keep saying that, don't we? We do not know for certain. He has not been charged yet. We always have to remember that. Oh, by the way, did you know that Facebook is out today? Facebook is offline completely, because there was something I wanted to show you off Facebook, but when I went on there, Facebook is down. And it reminded me, you know, the other day when my internet was off. We're too reliant now, aren't we? There'll be people out there that love Facebook and what have you, and it'd be terrible for them to be offline, but Facebook is down, completely down at the moment. So I don't know what's happened there. Is it a cyber attack? I do feel these days, you know, war is conducted in unconventional ways, isn't it? We'll probably see. I mean, I don't know that's what's happened with Facebook, and I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying cyber attacks and things like that, they're just more and more common all the time, aren't they? That's how war works these days. But yeah, like you say, can you imagine the worldwide panic? Kelly, as you say, people will be going frantic. I mean, I wasn't going frantic, but I was a bit annoyed because something that I wanted to show you that I'd seen on Facebook, where somebody had found Joshua's Pinterest account. Now, I can't find it, so I was trying to look for it, see if I could find a link. Anyway, I can't get on Facebook, so I'll have to save that for another day. That's what I wanted to show you. And the sun maker, so don't forget, these are these mainstream medias telling us social media people not speculate. We shouldn't speculate. But Joshua and his family. Just make sure it's sharing. Oh, I think these newspapers, they must have somebody full-time trying to dig up what they can, about this suspect. Must have. They must have, because they're coming up with things. This is a social media post that they've come up with. Suspect questioned whether Nigel Farage was at the risk of being attacked on the very day, and the woman, who we are not naming, made the post from an Instagram account on July the 8th. So here's another photo of Joshua, this time sat at his desk. Where has the son got this photo from? They're out there flashing the cash at somebody, aren't they? Because they keep, the press, they keep coming, where are they getting them from? So Nigel Farage says he doesn't feel safe. He gets lots of death threats, and I'm sure he does. And so he doesn't do constituency surgeries in Clacton. But the only thing I would say about that is, I thought he received £5 million from his pal that was supposed to be for his personal security. So why doesn't he use that money to get a bodyguard there with these? He shouldn't not be doing in-person constituency surgeries. I know he's worried about his safety, and I don't blame him. There is an issue with the MP's safety. But he received, according to him, that £5 million that he received from his mate was to ensure his security. So why doesn't he use it? Why doesn't he use it? And, get security at his constituencies. Thing is, Nigel Farage, well, he was an MP for Clacton. Of course, he's resigning now. Whether he wins it again, because Count Binface hopefully will win. But how can he not be doing constituency surgeries? What is he actually doing? He never even goes to Clacton. He doesn't give a shit about Clacton. If people in Clacton really think Nigel Farage cares one jot about them. So now he's resigned from as an MP for Clacton to stop the investigative processes into the £5 million bung that he received from his friend. And then he said he's going to stand for it again. How is that even allowed? So he resigns and then stands again immediately, because he wanted to stop the process, and now the investigative process has to start again. So all the other major parties have decided not to put forward a candidate, because as far as they're concerned, well, he was already the MP for Clacton. He didn't. What's he resigning for and then standing again? Well, the reason is so he stopped the investigation into his illicit receipt of £5 million. And so the only people that are standing against him, there's 30-odd candidates standing for this Clacton by-election. He's the... Oh, God. So there's him. Let's have a look at the candidates. And then you can tell me what you think about UK politics are a laughing stock. They were getting better under Keir Starmer, now it's all gone to pot again. It's all gone to pot again. So anyone looking from the outside in will think Britain's just the mad. But no, of them, 34 candidates for the Clacton by-election that Nigel Farage has caused because he decided. So he stepped down as MP and now he's standing again to be MP. It's just crazy. Let me just share this tab with you. Now talk about a crazy world. I'll tell you what. So that's the guy pinning up the list. Look at that list of candidates. Almost can't. Gosh. Where I hope they're gonna. Yeah. So full list of candidates. Joseph 77. Whoever he is, he's an independent candidate. Adam Alcatip, the Forward Party. Count Binface Party. Nick the Incredible Flying Brick, the official Monster Raving Loony Party. Tony Kane, independent. Woke Trump Kazi, independent. William Stewart James Clouston, Social Democratic Party. Rhys Cowan, independent. Glenn Charles Cummins, independent. Martin Davis, the Freedom Alliance, Real People, Real Alternatives. Andy Earlham, independent. Nigel Farage, Reform UK. Don't forget he stepped down from this and now he's put himself up again. No wonder I think it's such a crazy. Honestly, I'm living in a parallel universe every day. Atiye Fard, independent. Oh, listen this. Lawrence Fox, the Reclaim Party. Lawrence Fox. You know, the one that was a good actor that used to be in Morse, was it? What a dickhead he is. You know, it turned out he makes racist comments, he makes sexist comments, he's been arrested, he's lost his acting career completely, and now he's standing. I mean, you couldn't make it up, could you? This is like some skit from the 90s or whatever, you know, when we used to have proper political satire. We don't need it these days. There's no political satire because the only political satire these days is have I got news for you? Apart from that, you couldn't make up the real things that are happening in politics these days, in British politics. You don't need satire. So yeah, Lawrence Fox, oh my God. Tony Francis, the independent, he's an independent. Robin Green, independent. Abby Hookway, independent. Howling Lord Hope, the official Monster Raving Loony Party. So they've got 2 candidates from the official Monster Raving Loony Party. Stephen Richard Ingram, independent. Amy Morris, independent. Derek Norbert Morris, independent. Michael Noel O'Keefe, independent. Martin O'Brien, independent. Nick Pellas, independent. Ketankuma Pipilia, UK Voice, Safer and Stronger UK. Daniel Pocock, independent. James Ransley, Consensus Party candidate. Jerry Smith, independent. Kai Stevens, British Democrats. John Stevens, Rejoin EU. Yes, Rejoin EU. Baron von Thunderclap from the official Monster Raving Loony Party. Pamela Walford, independent. Marcus White, Everyone is God Party. And Mark Wilkinson, independent. Oh my God. So could you imagine countries outside the UK looking at this? What's actually happening in Clacton? Nigel Farage stands down to stop the investigation into the illegal money that he received. Oh, that's supposed to be for his security, but he says he doesn't feel secure, so he can't do constituencies in Clacton, even though he's got 5 million that his mate supposedly gave him for his security. He steps down, creates this by-election, then he stands up for it again. And he's joined by all these other crazy, so Labour, Conservative, the Greens, etc. They Lib Dems. They've all said they're not standing. They're not participating in this clown show. Don't blame them. So who's going to win? I just hope Binface wins. Or if all those others get enough votes and they join a coalition against Nigel Farage, I hope it backfires right up his racist ass. I really hope it does. I hope this whole strategy that is caused to try and cover up for the fact he is as bent as anything, I hope it all backfires on him. I really do. I wonder what he's confirmed. Wonder what he thinks about it all now. So no, you're right, Kelly. There aren't many. There's Amy Morris, Abby Hookway, to Pamela Walford. There's 3 women, independent candidates. I don't think women are that stupid, are they? I don't know. It's just like what are these like? Why have they got 3 candidates from the official monster raving loony party? Don't understand that. Why not just one candidate? And Lawrence Fox, what is he thinking? Well, he doesn't think, does he? He doesn't think. He's even an embarrassment to the right wing now, Lawrence Fox. This is the mad world that we live in. And now you just think, what, it looks mad to us. What is that going to look like to the world stage? So, going back to this relative of this suspect, posts seen by The Sun on Sunday show the relative agreeing with other users that Reform leader Mr Farage should hold in-person surgeries in his former Clacton constituency. But Mr Farage has said he is at risk of a politically motivated ambush if he holds traditional constituency appointments, but he's insisted that both he and his office still provide support to locals. How does he do that? How does he provide support to locals if he won't meet with them? So he resigned the Clacton seat earlier this month to fight a by-election, although no other major parties are opposing him. Let that sink in. Why did he resign his seat? He'd already won the seat. He was the sitting MP in Clacton. Why did he resign the seat? To stop the investigation process into the £5 million he'd been given. In the post, the woman questioned if it was actually dangerous for him to hold surgeries in Essex with voters. There is no suggestion that the relative knew of the suspect's alleged actions, which were said to have unfolded around the same time as her comment. Now, that's suspicious, isn't it? Or is that just bad luck, that as she put that comment on social media was at 12:30, just as Joshua was murdering Anne, or thought to have been. Odd, isn't it? So this person, I don't know if it's, it should say it further down. So the family member has previously published a string of posts around US President Donald Trump's call for his murder, Well, you know, there's probably a lot of people out there who've branded Donald Trump a psychopath, but calling for his murder perhaps is a bit too far, isn't it? In one post, she questioned his intelligence, but said he would be able to comprehend a bullet. Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So, former lift company worker Kerry was arrested last Saturday evening in Rotherham over what counter-terror police believe was a targeted attack against Anne. And he was then further detained on suspicion of preparing or instigating a terrorist attack and remains in police custody. But as I say, is he a communist? But communists don't go around murdering people. You whatever your political views are, you can be a communist. Of course you can. It's a free world, isn't it? If you want to be a communist, be a communist. But if you're going around murdering people, because this is what the police will be trying to establish. Has Joshua murdered Anne because of political beliefs? Because he is so far removed from a terrorist incident, wouldn't it? Or has he murdered Anne? He just happens to be a communist, and he's murdered Anne for other reasons, mental health reasons, or whatever. So this is what the police have got to establish. Was she murdered through political reasons or mental health reasons from Joshua, or a combination of the two? So it's quite tricky, isn't it, really? And in the meantime, on Twitter, Nigel Farage saying he believed, let me show you this actually. Here's another picture of him when he was a bit younger, I think, and slimmer. Not Nigel Farage, I mean another picture of Joshua. On good authority, the murder suspect was a hard left activist. He attended various marches and he hated anyone with an opposing view. This is what Nigel Farage says. So don't forget, we've not heard anything official from the police yet. He had expressed his hatred of me on more than one occasion. He was an intolerant individual obsessed with Soviet communism. So this is what Nigel says. So was Anne killed because she was defending Nigel? Was she just the softer target? It's terrible, isn't it? Because if that turns, was Anne attacked because she was a vulnerable elderly lady? He couldn't get to Nigel Farage because he didn't know where he lived. And don't forget, a few days before, had a TV program that had been made a couple of years before. Hadn't that been aired on TV? So Anne's home had been aired on TV, exactly where she lived. So it wouldn't have been difficult to find where Anne lived if you wanted to, And don't forget, stalkers, you'd be surprised the lengths they'll go to find out where people are.